Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Ninth Circle from R&R Games. Ninth Circle is a 2 to 5 player hidden, not really hidden movement. It's not hidden movement in the typical sense, but it's got elements of hidden movement, I guess. This is a game which you're basically trying to sacrifice demons to the Ninth Circle. This game, by the way, is a prototype, all rules and components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. The basic idea in this game is you are trying to go round and round in the game as you try to gain control of these various regions of the board in order to get points in the game, in order to gain favor that's going to move you slowly up this track until eventually you cross 25 points and a player wins, or Malacoda goes ahead and makes his way all the way back to the original spot over there. That's one of the two endgame conditions, at which point whoever has the most favor wins. So you're either trying to gain favor, gain to 25 favor, or you're just trying to have the most favor when the game fully ends. And to that end, what you're going to be doing is you're trying to gain favor on these spots that are going to give you both points and abilities. Every single region on the board, and yes, you will have a bunch of other tiles. Here we go. You have some other additional tiles over here, plus the tiles on the board, and you get to go ahead and set up a random setup with some minor rules as you go through it, and that's going to give you the setup of the board, giving you an a different game every single time you play. Each region is going to have a power associated with it, something that you get to do if you control the region, but you also get a point if you control that region, or 2 if you go ahead and control the region with Malacoda himself over there. Additionally, you're going to be sacrificing demons to the inner Ninth Circle over here, so you're going to have the additional reason to go into this zone over here with your various demon cubes down here, and then whoever has the most demons sacrificed in the circle is going to get points. You're going to get points based on, who has first, second, third, fourth in terms of most demons, and that will give you another way to get favor, which I've been alternating calling points and favor in the game. So basically, control the edge regions, get you abilities and points, favor, and sacrificing demons gets you favor that way. That's the core idea. Well, how does the game actually play? Well, every single round you're going to be placing minions behind your screen. This is what you have over here. You have a player screen where you have your little private board that mirrors the regions on the table. So you can go ahead and say, I'm going to be putting a few minions over there, a few demons over here, and a few demons over here, and you're trying to show where your demons are going to be going as you secretly place them behind your board before everyone goes ahead and reveals all their screens all at once to see the placement of their demons. Now you start the game with a variable number of demons depending on the player count, but every round you're going to get additional demons to be able to put in place. So that first round is very impactful, so everyone kind of spreads their demons all over the place, but then subsequent rounds are a little bit more nuanced, as players focus a bit more on moving demons around, because you're also going to have these little tokens over here, these tokens that represent movement from zone to zone, if you're going to go ahead and move a demon from zone B to zone C, or possibly moving demons directly to the Ninth Circle itself. You have the opportunity to show how you're going to get up to 3 moves as you move demons, but also placing the new demons you get every single round. So you're doing all that behind your screen as you try to be mindful of this board and what you think others are doing. If you currently control the mercenaries over here, do you want to guarantee that you have control? Do you want to try to put more demons there so you can keep it? Or are the players going to try to take it away from you? That might depend on how many demons they're putting onto the board, where their demons are located, and what they're currently doing as they go through it. And so you're playing this mind game with the other players as you try to figure out how to maintain control of the areas you currently have, trying to gain control of new areas and the abilities they have, while ultimately sacrificing as many demons as possible to the Ninth Circle so you can get that favor. And the favor is important, A, because it helps you win, but B, because it's going to move you past these lines on the track. As you move from the red zone to the yellow zone and the yellow zone to the blue zone, you're going to be taking stronger and stronger actions. Because we haven't talked about exactly what these zones do, and we'll get through some of them, but over here these zones give you abilities by controlling them. So for example, Banish lets you move a demon from one zone to another zone. So you can move a demon from the zone to another zone, very, very helpful, but you get to do that equal to the number of little stars you hear, which is either 1, 2, or 3, depending on the red, yellow, or blue zones of favor. So as you get stronger in favor, you are also strengthening your actions. You're taking stronger actions in each of these zones around the board. Most of the zones are favor based, not all of them are. Most of the zones are strength based on how high your favor tier is, and you're going to take stronger actions based on that. So again, in addition to, well, trying to win, which is always important, you also have the incentive of getting stronger in the game itself. Now, the game does have some degree of punishing the leader to an extent, in the sense that at the end of every round, every region you control, and you're going to use these little markers over here, these actual there's a different term for them. I'm not remembering what they're called exactly, but the stronger, bigger demons, they're not called demons. You're going to have these markers here showing when you control a zone, and whoever has the most cubes in that zone is going to have to remove zones from that. So you're going to go ahead and remove one over here. Actually, here's a little fun thing. Let's show this. So at the end of this turn over here right now, you would go ahead and remove this cube from this zone because he currently controls it. So there's a degree of punishing the person who currently got that control by some small degree of removing that control from them. Now you might be looking at the zone and saying, well, now we have purple tied with green, so now who controls it, which of the two? And the answer is, in this current situation, blue controls it. Whenever you have this tied number of demons, instead of having the player who has the most there, you're going to have the player who has the most that isn't tied. So the player that has the most that isn't tied is the person who controls the region. And if you're like, well, what if blue also has the same much? What if also blue has 2? Well, in that case, you simply don't change ownership. In fact, you could have a situation where all of purple now moves somewhere else through some ability in some sort, and purple would still maintain ownership, because until someone actually has the singular most, and again, if people have more than them and the tie doesn't count, the person who has the singular most with no ties controls the region, and if nothing actually controls, then the previous owner controls the region, which leads to some really fun moments when you do have a region where someone controls it and they have no one there and other players have players there. So, that's the basic sequence of play. We've covered basically most of the game, aside from some of the exact aspects of how much favor you get, how many minions you restore, things like that. But the basic idea is every single round, you're going to sit there and have a planning phase. You're going to put all your demons into your board, you're going to navigate where they go and how they move. Everyone's going to reveal those boards, and you're going to go ahead and carry out the planning on this main board here, as players add tokens to the various board, add the demons, and move things around. Then, starting from Malacoda's region, you're going to go ahead and start taking actions. You're going to start taking actions of each region, carrying out their abilities. Whether it's killing demons, whether it's creating stronger demons, that demon that's worth, 3 points instead, making a stronger demon out of it. Whether it's gathering more demons from the box, or putting various tokens onto the board. These tokens will all have different effects, protecting players, giving them immunity, possessing characters, banishing players, and again, there's going to be different tiles as well as you go through it. All these giving you different abilities that you'll then execute one at a time to continue to further your growth and control over all the regions of the board as you try to gather as much favor as possible. That is basically what you're doing in Ninth Circle. Rinse and repeat until a player either crosses that 25-point line, or until Malacoda goes ahead all the way back to the original starting zone, and that is how you play Ninth Circle, which brings us to the review, starting off with ease of play. The rulebook on this is actually pretty easy to go through. There's like 4 pages of how to actually play the game, and honestly, they have excellent play rates on both your personal boards over here, but also on the main board. This covers, aside from the font, which isn't the easiest to read, this actually has most of what you need to know for the basic phasing pretty simply laid out. The game is pretty easy to get into. It's a simple round sequence. You're going to plan where your minions go, you're going to resolve the minions, you're going to determine the dominance of the region, then use the realm powers, and then score for, the favor and the Ninth Circle and all of that. So it's a very simple pattern, and you're just repeating it until either time runs out, or someone has 25 points, whichever comes first in the game. Past that, you're going to have the actual demon powers over here, the region powers, on this other 2 additional pages, or 4 pages technically double-sided, covering the additional powers of the various regions in case you don't get them from the iconography, which you would probably not. You need to read how it works, and the iconography is a loose reminder of it. But that's basically as far as the ease of play. Game time does range, depends if you're actually hitting the 25 points, or if you slowly crawl it out. I would say generally it's going to be in the 45 to 60 minute range. It could go a little slower depending on how players are playing, and if you're like slowly ticking around the board, but generally I'd say in the 45 to 60 minute range. As far as what I can see, as far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which first of all, I love the Las Vegas style board control, which might not make sense to you when I say Las Vegas style board control, but that idea that you can control a region based on who has the singular most, and ties kind of result in someone else below getting it, is a concept, is a scoring mechanism that I am most familiar with from a game called Las Vegas. I've seen it in other games as well, but I'm most familiar from that game, and I love it in that game, and I think it works really well in Ninth Circle as well. It's not a perfect scoring system because it's a little chaotic and it's a little almost fun-based as opposed to pure strategy-based, but it really works well and fits with the flavor of Ninth Circle, and just overall does a good job as far as fitting with how chaotic this game can feel, and leaning into those fun moments where you thought you were going to gain control of something, and really you just left control with the previous player, or gave control to someone who doesn't really have nearly as many demons in that region as you. And so I love that Las Vegas style board control. I also like the fact that you lose a minion every single time based on having control, which gives a small degree of kind of catch-up to a small degree of catch-up with the leader. What's it called? Not catch-up with the leader. Oh my gosh. It's called what's it called? Catch-up mechanism. What are they called? I am blanking on the term for when you are in last place and you have is this called a catch-up mechanism? I'm saying it wrong. Someone's got me in the comments down below. I'm going to keep going. I love the variable powers as well. The fact that you have different regions with different powers, and you don't even use all those powers game to game. You're going to have different regions. You're going to have 2 regions out of play as you mix all these up. And something I haven't really gone through over here, but if you are looking at the Kickstarter page, you'll see that there's stretch goals and expansions and all those things that are unlocked, giving you more content for the game. Some of these things are upgraded to, deluxe fight minis and whatnot. They have more realm powers and all those things. Take that into account as I'm reviewing this, that I don't know exactly what will be the final retail version versus the deluxe version, so take all that into account. But right now on the Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, there is more content for the game as well that gives you more variability to the experience as you go through it. And I like the variance of the way the powers are going to set up, giving you near infinite variability as the exact way. It's not near, I shouldn't say that, it's not near infinite variability. The slight differences to the way the realms are arranged are not going to have a drastic difference on gameplay. It will have a difference for sure, but not to the point where I'll call it near infinite variability. But it does give you a variance to how the game will play out based on the order that things will resolve, especially if you're playing with the advanced mode. There's a slightly more advanced mode to play with that has more of a simultaneous control and execution aspect to the way the realms are resolved, which will give you more importance to the order that you have regions in play. I like the slow escalation of the game, the fact that you start off in this red area and you slowly get more and more powerful, so the game gets more and more punishing as you go. It starts off, when you start off, the first time you control that banish power, you can only go ahead and take care of one person, booting them out of a region. But the more times you get, the more higher you are in the game, more often you're doing 1, 2, or 3 activations of something, which just has more gravitas and consequence. The game ramps up and scales as the game goes through, which I generally like in games. I generally like it in games, and I like it in Ninth Circle as well. As far as what I don't like in the game, first thing I'm going to say is the iconography. This is more of a pet peeve, but the iconography in the game, I find I constantly have to reference the rulebook even once I learned these powers. Now, once you play it, a few times, you will lock it in, but the iconography, it's not as simple as reading like what banish does and then being like, oh yeah, this banish is moved from what. Actually, banish happens to be one of the easier ones, so I shouldn't actually give that. But the iconography is not terrible, but I find that I really have to know what the power does from the rulebook itself. And then once it's really locked in, the iconography can help, but it's not the best. I almost wish it was text-based, but I understand there's always reasons not to do text-based, or even give a player it as opposed to the rulebook. I don't know. It's not the worst. It's a small complaint. I'll say a bigger complaint as far as the actual game enjoyment to me comes down to how chaotic the game can be, which is a pro and a con, because I mentioned already as far as how much I like the Las Vegas style scoring, how it leans into that fun aspect of how a game plays, and I do like that here as well, and I like the sheer amounts of chaos as players flood the board with just tons of demons and minions and moving them all around the board and having so much control of the powers. Like, there's so many things are happening in the game. You don't know what's showing up on the board, you don't know what's moving on the board, you don't know what's being added, you don't know what's being removed, and you don't know how the powers are going to execute as you circle around the board, having such a huge degree of change over the game state, such that it is a chaotic game. It's hard to plan. The best you can do is kind of plan around the fact that this is the thing that I can influence, and let's ultimately see what can happen. Meaning the game definitely leans more into the pure chaos than it does into the rigid tactical planning, and so for better or for worse, that turns it into an experience where, while I have control over the exact types of actions that I think will make sense, it's rarely a game that I feel pure control in the way I would in a pure tactical strategy game. Again, all games have luck to a degree. This one definitely borders a bit more on the chaotic, almost to the point where it takes away to some extent from what I'm trying to do in the game. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, you must use a power if you may. This is a small thing. I like it. I find it actually really funny, but you have to use a power if you can, which even if you don't want to, even if it's not beneficial, you must use the power of a region you control. So it's a small little thing. Sometimes it feels a little punishing in games when you're like, I thought I had a good thing, but now I'm using it against myself. I can see that. I like it in this game. I'm fine with it. But I'll say the game can run a bit long, especially if no one wins from 25 points. If you're trying to drift around the board over there, the game can run a bit longer than it should. The box has it listed at 45. And yeah, like I said already, it's 45 minutes. 45 to 60 minutes has been my experience. But it can drift if you don't have players locking in that power. If your players focusing on the wrong things, possibly not focusing on actually sacrificing power and more focusing on control or different things like that, then you could have the game running a little longer. As far as final thoughts on Ninth Circle, I overall enjoyed this game. It's chaos, and it's chaos in a fun way, and the overall system of placing things down behind your board as you plan things out, these are systems we've seen before in a lot of games. It almost seems reminiscent of one element of El Grande, just one small element of El Grande as you try to plan these things out and put them out. There's a lot of game systems that have them, we'll come to them shortly in recommendations, but overall, I really enjoy Ninth Circle to a degree. The to a degree part is the fact that at the end of the day, the game is both a strategy game, but also is chaotic at the same time. It's fun as you play through it, and I like the powers and abilities, and I like the variance of the gameplay, and I like the whether you're playing at different player counts or with different players, you'll have drastically different experiences. But it is one that is both fun and has powers and abilities and has variability, while also presuming to be more of a strategy game while feeling a bit more into the chaos and fun things happening realm. So good and bad kind of mixed together there. For me, overall, it is a 3.5 out of 5. A lot of good things I like. If it was a bit more strategic and a bit less chaotic, I think it could be higher for me, but enough things are happening that it's never easy to properly plan. Forget easy. It's not viable to sit there and walk in with a plan of action. No plan survives first contact with the enemy, and that is definitely true with Ninth Circle. So a good game, a 3.5 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, City of Spies. If you're looking for a game that is very reminiscent of what Ninth Circle does, but with a bit more control and agency over the experience, City of Spies is one of my favorite games in this kind of hidden placement genre. And then additionally, if you're looking for something else where you're going to be secretly flooding regions of the board with different stuff, Mission Red Planet kind of has similar vibes. I can't remember the publisher of that one. I don't know who reprinted it. But from Bruno Cathala, Mission Red Planet is a fantastic game that also has a degree of kind of secretly deciding where tons of areas are going to flood, but again with a little bit more control, as it's kind of more one region at a time as you go, well, with exceptions and all that, as you go through it. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.